Welcome, dear dreamers, to another serene night with whispers of the night. I'm so glad you've chosen to spend this quiet evening with us. Before we embark on tonight's journey, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a moment of magic and tranquility. Tonight, we invite you to drift away with us, to let go of the day, and to travel through realms of wonder and imagination. Prepare yourself for a story that will soothe your mind, awaken your curiosity, and carry you gently toward restful dreams. Now, settle into a comfortable space, take a deep breath, and allow the calm of the night to wrap around you as we begin our adventure journey through the Atlas of Ages. Before we immerse ourselves in tonight's story, let's take a moment to release the day and invite calm into our minds and bodies. Begin by finding a comfortable position, letting your hands rest loosely and allowing your eyes to close if they wish. Take a slow, deep breath in, hold it, and gently exhale, feeling tension melt from your shoulders and neck. With each breath, imagine a warm, golden light spreading from the top of your head, slowly flowing down your body, relaxing every muscle, every joint, every cell. Feel it reach your fingertips and toes, leaving you fully supported, fully at peace. Now, bring your awareness to your mind. Picture thoughts like clouds drifting softly across the sky, noticing them, but letting them pass without grasping. With every exhale, let worries, stress, and distractions fade further away. Feel a gentle sense of weightlessness, as if you are floating effortlessly, cradled in the quiet comfort of the night. Let your heart beat slow, your breathing steady, your mind open to the soft serenity that surrounds you. Allow yourself to feel safe, calm, and deeply ready for rest. You are here, in this moment, fully present, fully relaxed, fully ready to drift into the magic of your dreams. Journey through the Atlas of Ages. The Forgotten Map. Camélia had always believed that her grandfather's attic held secrets. Ever since she was a child, she would stare up at the narrow wooden staircase that led into the dim, dusty space above the house, imagining forgotten treasures hidden beneath old quilts or tucked into crooked shelves. Now, at 19, she returned to the attic, not as a child seeking imagined wonders, but as a scholar craving real mysteries. She pushed open the creaking door, a wave of warm dust brushing against her face as she stepped inside. The air smelled of cedar, parchment, and an ancient scent that made her heartbeat quicken. Sunlight slanted through the narrow attic window, casting long golden beams across towering stacks of books, rolled maps, cracked leather trunks, and wooden crates overflowing with relics. Her grandfather had been a historian, a traveler, and a collector of forgotten things. Now, after his passing, the attic belonged to her hand, so, she hoped, did the secrets. It kept Camélia carefully sifted through piles of brittle papers and yellowed journals, each filled with her grandfather's delicate handwriting. She traced the ink with her fingers, whispering his name softly into the attic's quiet air. It still felt strange that he was gone, leaving behind this labyrinth of memories. She wanted to understand him better, to connect the scattered pieces of his life's work. But she didn't expect to find anything truly extraordinary. Not yet. She was kneeling beside an old trunk when something unusual caught her eye, an odd shimmer coming from beneath a pile of faded quilts. At first, she thought it was a trick of the sunlight, but when she moved the blankets aside, her breath hitched. Resting in the dust was an atlas unlike any she had ever seen. It was enormous, bound in dark leather, too smooth, too pristine for its apparent age. Strange symbols were etched across the cover, symbols she didn't recognize, not even from her years studying ancient languages. The atlas pulsed faintly, as though a heartbeat thrummed inside it. Camélia hesitated. Her fingers trembled. She swallowed hard and lifted the book carefully, feeling an unexpected warmth radiate from it. The attic around her seemed to hush, the dust motes suspended mid-air. This wasn't an ordinary artifact. This felt alive. She carried it to a cleared space near the window, brushing off the thin layer of dust that had settled on the cover. The moment her hand touched the symbols, they flickered with a soft golden glow. Camélia jerked her hand back, heart pounding. For a few breaths, she simply stared. Curiosity warred with caution, but curiosity, as always, won gently. She opened the atlas. A rush of air swept across her face, warm and sweet like blooming fields in springtime. She blinked rapidly. The pages were thick, made of a material she couldn't quite identify. Tanned. The illustration, she gasped, moved. Rivers rippled, trees swayed, clouds drifted lazily across painted skies. Mountains shimmered as though dusted with living starlight. Entire landscapes unfolded before her, shifting and pulsing like miniature worlds trapped under glass. She leaned closer, mesmerized. Every page was alive. It was beautiful, impossible, unexplainable. Her grandfather had never mentioned anything like this. As she examined the pages, she noticed strange glyphs running along the margins, glowing softly, written in a script she had never studied. Something about the symbols tugged at her memory, like half-remembered dreams she could never fully grasp. Her grandfather had traveled widely. Perhaps he had discovered this atlas in some forgotten ruin or hidden library. Perhaps he had kept it secret for a reason. But why? She turned another page, and her breath caught again. This one depicted a vast expanse of swirling mist surrounding what looked like an ancient stone archway. Light spilled from the arch like water, illuminating the mist in swirling colors of gold, blue, and violet. The glyphs around the image glowed more intensely than before. As she leaned closer for a better look, the archway on the page flickered once, twice like a lantern struggling against wind. "That's impossible," Camélia whispered to herself. But the archway flickered again, then glowed steadily, radiating a soft hum that vibrated through her fingertips. She felt it pulse through her hand, up her arm, into her chest. The hum matched her heartbeat, syncing with it until she felt as though she and the atlas were connected by invisible threads. Camélia tried to pull her hand back, but the glow grew brighter, drawing her gaze back to the page. The mist seemed to shift. The colors swirled faster, deepening, brightening. A strange warmth wrapped around her hand, gentle but firm, as though urging her forward. She resisted for a moment, but then her curiosity overpowered her fear. Her finger traced one of the glowing symbols beside the arched dot. The attic erupted in blinding light. Camélia gasped as the floor dropped away beneath her. A powerful wind roared around her, tugging at her clothes, lifting her hair. She tried to scream, but the sound was swallowed by the light. The atlas blurred, melting into streaks of gold and silver. Gravity twisted, pulling her forward, pulling her through where. She reached out, grasping desperately for something, anything, to anchor her, but her fingers closed around nothing. The attic vanished. The air grew sweet and warm, filled with an unfamiliar scent, like rain on distant stone. Light rushed past her in spirals, shimmering with colors she had no names for. Her heartbeat thundered, her thoughts scattered. The world became a swirl of radiance. And then, as abruptly as it began, the whirlwind stopped. Camélia fell onto soft ground with a quiet thud. The breath knocked from her lungs. She groaned, blinking rapidly as shapes formed around her. She pushed herself upright, slowly, her palms pressing into cool, dew-covered grass. The air was fresh, crisp, and gently perfumed with something floral and strange. She wasn't in the attic anymore. She wasn't anywhere recognizable at all. Before her stretched a valley of breathtaking beauty, rolling hills carpeted with shimmering, silver-green grass, sparkling under sunlight that wasn't quite the same shade of gold as back home. The sky overhead was a brilliant gradient of blue, streaked with faint violet clouds that drifted lazily across the horizon. In the distance, towering trees with luminous leaves swayed gently in a breeze. She couldn't feel Camélia's breath, trembled as she stood. Her legs felt unsteady, but she forced herself upright, staring in awe. Her heart pounded with fear and exhilaration. "What is this place?" she whispered. As if an answer, a soft chime echoed through the valley, a delicate, crystalline sound that seemed to vibrate in the air. She spun around, searching for the source, but saw nothing. Only grass, only light, only endless, unfamiliar beauty. Her gaze dropped to her hands. The atlas lay beside her, closed, its dark cover now cool beneath her fingertips. It looked ordinary, again no glow, no pulse. But she knew better. Whatever it was, it had brought her here. And now she was alone, in a world she did not understand. Camélia lifted the atlas warily and held it against her chest. She turned in a slow circle, trying to gather her thoughts, but everything felt unreal. How could a book open a portal? Why had it chosen her? And most importantly, how was she supposed to go back? Her grandfather had kept this secret. He must have known something. Perhaps he had traveled here once. Perhaps he had left clues somewhere in the atlas. Hints she had not yet uncovered. Camélia took a deep breath, letting the strange, crisp air fill her lungs. The fear still pulsed inside her, cold and sharp, but beneath it was something else. Something warm, something familiar. Wonder she had always longed for, discovery, for adventure, for mysteries that defied logic. And now, against all sense and reason, she had found one. She tightened her grip on the atlas and took her first step into the valley. As she walked, the silver-green grass brushed gently against her legs, glimmering in the sunlight. The soft chime sounded again, closer this time, then again, almost melodic. It guided her like a whisper carried on the wind. She followed the sound, stepping deeper into the valley, her senses sharpened by curiosity and caution. The terrain rolled gently beneath her feet. The sky shifted colors as the sun dipped slightly, casting long shadows across the land. The breeze finally reached her, carrying with it faint whispers, though perhaps they were only leaves rustling. She wasn't sure. At the base of a hill, she stopped abruptly. There, engraved into the earth itself, was a symbol she recognized from the margins of the atlas. It glowed softly with pale blue light, its shape pulsing as though alive. Camélia knelt down, heart hammering. Her fingers hovered just above the glowing lines, hesitant to touch. "Is this connected to the atlas?" she murmured. The symbol brightened. She jerked her hand back, but the symbol's glow softened, as if calming, inviting. Her breath grew uneven. She reached into her bag for the atlas and opened it to the page with the stone archway. The image glowed faintly again, as though awakened by the symbol on the ground. This was connected. Somehow, as the realization settled over her, the wind stirred, swirling around her ankles like an unseen presence. The chime sounded again, clearer. It felt like a message, though she couldn't understand its meaning. She looked around the valley, clutching the atlas tightly against her chest. The world stretched endlessly before her, beautiful, strange, enchanted. She had no idea what dangers it might hold, or what wonders she might find. But one thing was certain: her journey had already begun. With slow, determined steps, Camélia followed the glowing symbol's faint trail across the valley. The light pulsed gently beneath her feet, like a guiding path, winding deeper into the unknown. She felt small, fragile, but she also felt strangely hopeful. This world pulsed with mystery, and she, armed with nothing but her curiosity, was ready to uncover its secrets. As the violet-streaked sky shifted toward twilight, the first stars appeared bright, shimmering, and unlike any constellation she had ever studied. They shimmered in patterns she couldn't decipher, forming shapes that shifted almost imperceptibly. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was irresistible. Camélia pressed forward, her mind racing with questions. What was this realm? Who created the atlas? Were there others here? And most importantly, is her grandfather somehow connected to all of this? She didn't have answers yet, but she felt deep in her chest that the atlas would reveal them, one page at a time, one symbol at a time, one realm at a time. The wind picked up, carrying with it the faint scent of ancient stone and distant magic. The chime sounded once more, ringing like a calling bell. Camélia lifted her chin, steadied her breathing, and stepped boldly toward the sound. Her adventure, the true beginning of her life's greatest mystery, had only just begun. The shifting lands Camélia had barely taken 20 steps deeper into the valley when the world around her shivered, subtle at first, like a heat mirage. She blinked, thinking her eyes were playing tricks on her. But then the hills in the distance swayed like waves, and the silver-green grass rippled in spirals instead of wind-brushed lines. She froze, clutching the atlas tightly against her chest. The earth beneath her boots trembled, not violently, but thoughtfully, as though deciding where it wanted to be. The valley was changing. She took a step back, but the ground rose gently beneath her feet, lifting her as if to prevent her retreat. A gasp. The land wasn't just moving, it was responding to her presence, to her thoughts. She steadied her breath and tried to focus. "Okay," she whispered, trying to sound brave. "I'm not imagining this. The atlas brought me here for a reason. I can handle this." The moment she thought it, the trembling stopped. The ground flattened beneath her. The hills in the distance stabilized. For a fleeting second, the valley seemed calm again. "Oh," she murmured, "you're linked to me somehow, aren't you?" The land shimmered in answer. Before she could take another step, something metallic and round rolled out from a patch of grass near her boot. It bounced twice, rattled, and bumped against her ankle with a soft clink. Camélia jumped back. What is that?" The object wobbled upright. A circular brass frame, etched with runes, gleamed under the strange sky. Inside its glass window, a compass needle spun wildly, turning so fast it blurred into a silver circle. Then, to her utter disbelief, it spoke. "In the name of wandering winds, can you please stop thinking so loudly? You're making the mountains dizzy." Camélia stared. Her mind went blank. You're a compass. "Well, aren't you observant?" The compass snapped, puffing a tiny cloud of metallic dust. "Yes, I'm a compass. Ori, to be precise. Ori, the orientation specialist." It bowed, rolled forward, tipped, then righted itself again, "At your service." Unfortunately, she blinked. Compasses don't talk, and maps don't glow. Portals don't open in attics, and scholars don't usually land face first in enchanted valleys. Yet, here we are. Ari shook himself indignantly. "Now then, name Camélia," she said slowly, crouching to his level. "I'm trying to understand this place. And you, how do you talk, think, exist?" Auri spun his needle dramatically. "My dear lost wanderer, this is the shifting lands. Everything here is shaped by intent, emotion, and the occasional existential crisis. If you're not careful, you'll think a river into a tornado." Camélia paled. "I can do that. You already rerouted to streams and collapsed a small hill on your way in." Ori sniffed. No spatial awareness whatsoever. She felt heat rush to her cheeks. "I didn't mean to." "Well, of course you didn't. That's the problem." Auri hopped onto a nearby stone, though Camélia hadn't noticed the stone a moment ago. It must have grown there. The shifting lands respond to thought. Focus creates form. Fear creates, well, usually mudslides. The Atlas brought you here to see if you can handle uncertainty, adaptation, and creative thinking. So far, you're at, let me be generosa, beginner level. "A beginner," she echoed. "Beginner," Ori confirmed, needle bobbing. "But don't pout. Beginner is better than hopeless." Camélia exhaled slowly, shaking her head. Everything felt surreal, like floating inside a dream she wasn't sure she could wake from. But she knew she couldn't panic. If her emotions shaped the environment, then fear was dangerous. She closed the atlas and steadied her breath. "So you're my guide," Ari clicked indignantly. "Guide? Well, I suppose. Someone has to keep you from being swallowed by a thought-generated canyon." He pointed his needle toward the horizon. "Follow me, and please try not to imagine anything catastrophic." Camélia nodded and stepped after him. The moment she focused on walking calmly, the terrain smoothed ahead of her grass, parting gently, forming a clear path. She could almost feel the world listening to her, but then her mind drifted. She thought briefly of what dangers might exist here. A tremor shook the ground. Behind her, a jagged ridge began to rise, stone grinding against stone. Camélia gasped. "Oh no, stop. Stop thinking about danger," Ori shouted, needle spinning frantically. "Think of something harmless. Rabbits, soft pillows, sweets." Camélia squeezed her eyes shut and thought desperately of something gentle. Childhood memories of her mother reading by the fireplace. Soft blankets, the smell of honey tea. The ridge crumbled harmlessly into sparkling sand. Ori let out a long, metallic groan. "You're going to give me a rusted heart." "Sorry," Camélia muttered. "You will be. Now move along." They traveled deeper into the ever-changing lands. Mountains rose in spirals, then folded themselves back into rolling hills. Streams curved like silver ribbons, shifting direction whenever Camélia's focus wandered. Once, when she wondered briefly what the nearby trees would look like with golden leaves, the trees instantly shimmered and transformed thousands of leaves, turning bright gold, falling like metallic snowflakes. Despite the chaos, something about the place fascinated her. She had spent her whole life studying history-mapped lands, predictable patterns, verified knowledge. But here the world was alive, malleable, responsive. It terrified her, and it thrilled her. She glanced down at Ori. "How do you exist? I mean, are you from this realm?" Ori huffed. "I was shaped just like everything else here. Some wanderer centuries ago thought, wouldn't it be useful if my compass could talk? And here I am, 300 years later, still giving directions nobody listens to." Camélia smiled slightly. "Does that mean you can read my thoughts?" "Good heavens, no. I barely tolerate your footsteps. I just see the effects." Ori spun his needle in agitation. "Though I should tell you, the Atlas tests every traveler differently. For you, it seems intent on measuring your control." She frowned. Control of yourself," Ori said. "Your mind, your fears, your imagination." He hopped forward, his frame clicking softly. "If you can't navigate the shifting lands, you'll be stuck circling your own thoughts forever." A chill rippled down her spine. "Why test me? I didn't ask for this." "Ah," Ori said gently, for the first time sounding almost kind. "But perhaps the Atlas thinks you're ready for it, or that you need it." Camélia didn't know how to respond. She hugged the Atlas closer, feeling its warm pulse under her palm. They pressed on, and the landscape grew stranger. Stone archways formed from thin air, then dissolved into mist. Floating droplets of water hovered like lanterns. A patch of grass turned into polished glass before peeling back into soil again. At one point, the sky briefly flipped upside down. Camélia stumbled, dizzy, until it righted itself. She was beginning to understand why Ori called it the shifting lands. Trying to keep her thoughts steady was like trying to hold onto smoke. Every flicker of emotion reshaped the world. Every stray idea threatened another avalanche or river or inexplicable tree transformation. Still, she pushed forward, and the land responded, gradually becoming more manageable as her focus sharpened. The shaking ground steadied. The rivers remained in place. Hills rose softly, predictably. The world calmed beneath her will. Ari let out a metallic whistle. Well, look at that. You're getting the hang of it. Camélia blinked. Really, more or less? You haven't destroyed anything in the last 10 minutes. That's progress. A small laugh escaped her. Thank you, I guess. Ari bobbed. Don't thank me. Just don't make me roll off a cliff. They crested a hill, and Camélia's breath caught at the sight before her. A vast plain stretched out, glittering like stardust scattered across the ground. The air shimmered above it, waves of color shifting with each passing second. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's dangerous, Ori corrected bluntly. This is the field of mirrors. Here, your doubts take shape. Camélia stiffened. Doubts? Ari nodded gravely. The atlas reveals the truth of the traveler. If you fear failure, the ground may crack beneath you. If you fear being lost, the path may dissolve. If you fear yourself, his needle stilled. Well, best not. Think about that. Her heart drummed in her chest. She took one hesitant step forward. The shimmering surface rippled beneath her footnot, sinking, just reacting. She steadied her breathing, tried to calm her swirling thoughts. She wasn't helpless. She wasn't lost. She wasn't afraid. The field of mirrors calmed. Ori murmured, "Good, very good." Camélia pressed forward, step by step, each footfall strengthening her confidence. As her courage grew steadier, the world brightened, colors deepening, the rippling ground smoothing into a solid path. Her thoughts no longer spiraled wildly. She felt centered, a little enough. When she reached the far side of the field, Ori let out a triumphant clang. You survived. Well done. I rate your performance. A strong, adequate Camélia laughed breathlessly. I'll take it. Now, Ari declared, spinning toward a distant ridge where faint lights flickered. The atlas wants you to keep going, and the next test won't be so forgiving. She tightened her grip on the atlas, feeling its pulse beat steadily beneath her palm. The shifting lands no longer frightened her the way they had at first. She could feel the world responding to her courage, mirroring the shape of her own belief. Whatever lay ahead, she would face it, with Ori clicking determinedly beside her. Camélia stepped into the unknown again, ready to shape the next part of her journey before the shifting lands shaped her instead. Echoes of the past. The wind carried a strange hush as Camélia and Ori approached the ridge, glowing faintly in the distance. The colors of the shifting lands quieted around them, settling into softer hues, as though the world itself were holding its breath. For the first time since she arrived, Camélia sensed stillness. No shifting hills, no trembling ground, no flickering sky. Ahead, beyond the last slope, an ancient city stretched across a vast plain, its towering arches and stone walls washed in pale silver light. It was beautiful, but unnervingly still, not ruined, not decaying, simply paused, as though someone had pressed halt on the flow of time. Ori's needle quivered. Ah, the city of echoes. Camélia stared in wonder. Echoes, not sounds. Ori rolled forward, voice lowered. Memories. As they entered through a massive stone gate, she noticed that even the air felt different. Thick, heavy, with forgotten emotion. The streets were lined with statues' figures, mid-action, frozen in stone like captured snapshots of a living world. A woman reaching toward a falling scroll, a child mid-laugh, a merchant caught in the act of raising his hand to greet a friend. Camélia shivered. These were people. Alri nodded solemnly. Echoes of them. Imprints of moments so powerful they left themselves behind. She stepped carefully between the statues, her fingers grazing the smooth stone arm of a man frozen mid-sprint. The touch sent a ripple of cold up her arm, followed by a whisper, a voice, faint, then a flurry of images, blurry but vivid, a race, a moment of decision, a lifetime of regret. Camélia jerked back, stunned. I felt something. You will feel many things here, Ori said quietly. This is where the Atlas shows travelers the weight of choices your own and those who came before. The street ahead shimmered. A woman's figure stepped out of the stone, translucent and faintly luminous. Camélia gasped, clutching the Atlas. The figure laughed a warm, gentle sound and handed a loaf of bread to a child, who accepted it with wide, grateful eyes. Then the vision flickered, dimmed, and dissolved. Another appeared to men, arguing violently, their words echoing through the silent street. The younger one stormed away, and the elder sank to his knees. Regret chiseled into every line of his fading face. Camélia felt a sharp ache in her chest, as though their pain brushed against her own. Auri murmured, "These are echoes of the past moments of triumph, mistakes, and lessons etched into the heart of the city. The Atlas wants you to see them." Camélia walked slowly, watching as memories flickered to life around her. Battles fought, friendships forged, inventions born, hopes dashed, and decisions made in the briefest of seconds that shaped entire lives. She felt each one resonate within her, stirring her own past choices she had questioned, regrets she held in quiet corners of her heart. She thought of her grandfather, his laughter, his stories, the secrets he kept. Had he walked these streets? Had he learned something here that he could never bring himself to tell her? The path led them to a wide plaza at the city's center, dominated by a colossal monumental hourglass, suspended between two arching wings of stones. Its sand was frozen mid-flow, a single grain hovering between descent and stillness. At the base of the hourglass sat a figure carved of obsidian, a guardian statue. Though larger and more imposing than any she had seen so far. As Camélia approached, its eyes flared with pale blue light. Ori recoiled slightly. Ah, here we go. The statue's head tilted, stone scraped against stone as it stood, towering at least 3 times her height. It spoke with a voice like shifting gravel. Seeker of the Atlas, you walk the echoes. You witness the past. To proceed, you must understand what binds memory to meaning. Camélia swallowed hard, gripping the Atlas. What must I do? The guardian extended its hand. In its palm, a thin thread of light formed, weaving itself into the shape of a delicate sphere, swirling with shadows and glimmers of distant moments. A riddle, it rumbled. Answer, and you may pass, fail, and remain lost among the echoes forever. Ori muttered. No pressure. The guardian lifted the glowing sphere. I am the keeper of choices, it said. Born with every beginning, remembered in every end. I am shaped by fear, strengthened by courage, and shattered by regret. I can save lives or ruin them, yet I am no living thing. Sphere brightened, pulsing like a heartbeat. What am I? Camélia's heart pounded. Fear, courage, regret, choices. The echoes she saw were all tied to decisions made by the people of this city. Some moments triumphant, others filled with sorrow. Ori whispered, "Think carefully. The wrong answer here can turn time against you." Camélia's mind raced. She thought of the visions, the man who regretted running, the woman who shared bread, the arguments, the triumphs. All were moments when someone chose a path, sometimes right, sometimes wrong, sometimes life-changing, born with beginnings remembered at ends. She stepped closer, steadying her breath. "A decision," she said softly. The guardian's eyes blazed brighter. The sphere flickered. Camélia swallowed, then spoke more firmly. "A choice. You are a choice." Silence swept the plaza. Then, a sound like cracking ice filled the air. The glowing sphere dissolved into a shower of shimmering particles. The guardian bowed its massive head. "Correct," Ari sagged with relief. "Oh, thank the turning stars." The guardian lowered its hand, palm open. A path of flowing silver light emerged from the ground, winding forward toward the city's far edge. "The echoes have tested your heart," the guardian said, voice softer now. "Walk forward with what you have learned. The atlas awaits your next step." The statue returned to stillness, time refreezing around it. Camélia let out a long breath, her muscles trembling from tension she hadn't realized she carried. The echoes of the city whispered softly in the distance, less intense now, like fading memories. She looked down at the atlas. Its cover glowed gently, warmly, as though approving. Camélia walked forward, following the silver path. She felt different, heavier with wisdom, lighter with clarity. The city of echoes had shown her that choices defined worlds, not just this realm, but her own life as well. Auri rolled beside her, unusually quiet. "What are you thinking?" Camélia asked softly. "That you handled that much better than I expected," Auri admitted. "You're learning," she smiled faintly. "Maybe I am." As the frozen city faded behind them, Camélia felt the weight of the past settle gently into her mind, not a burden, but a guide. Ahead lay more mysteries, more tests, more realms shaped by the atlas. But she walked forward with steadier steps, and the echoes of the past followed her like a quiet, knowing whisper. The Labyrinth of Ages. The silver path from the City of Echoes narrowed as Camélia and Ori moved forward, until it funneled into a stone archway carved with swirling runes. The air grew cooler. Still, the light dimmed, flickering as if passing through layers of smoke. When she stepped through the arch, the world shifted. Before them stretched a vast labyrinth, its walls impossibly high. Spiraling so far into the distance, they disappeared into a haze of shimmering blue light. The stone wasn't ordinary. Each surface moved like living parchment, shapes and etchings shifting as though recording history in real time. Ari's needle froze in place. "Ah, the labyrinth of ages. I was afraid of this." Camélia exhaled slowly. "A labyrinth of time, of eras," Ori corrected. "Every corridor leads to another age." some past, some future, some that never were but could have been. His needle wobbled uneasily, and it will test you harder than anything before. Camélia approached the entrance. As she placed a hand on the stone, the wall rippled like water. Lines and symbols rearranged themselves into a single message, glowing faintly. Walk forward with courage, or be lost within your own shadows. She felt a chill ripple down her spine, but she nodded and stepped inside. Immediately, the labyrinth shifted. The corridor split into 3 paths each, one lined with scenes carved into stone. The first showed flickering torches and silhouettes of warriors. The second shimmered with floating parchment and quills. The third glowed softly with strange, futuristic lights. Ori rolled in a tight circle. The labyrinth tailors itself to your mind. It will draw on your strengths and exploit your fears. Camélia studied each path, uncertain. Then she closed her eyes and breathed deeply, letting intuition guide her. The warmest sensation tugged her toward the path lined with old parchment. The moment she stepped forward, the other 2 paths vanished. The corridor stretched endlessly, walls glowing with scenes from distant centuries, scholars debating, explorers charting maps, ancient astronomers sketching the stars. As Camélia walked, the scenes moved like living murals, replaying forgotten moments. She whispered, awestruck, "It's like walking through history." Ari hummed, "The labyrinth of ages remembers everything, and sometimes it remembers things you've forgotten about yourself." The corridor darkened abruptly. Ahead, a door materialized, piece surface covered in carvings of impossible puzzles, labyrinths within labyrinths, mirrored symbols, and knots that had no clear beginning or end. Camélia touched the door. Instantly, the carvings flared to life, rearranging into a question. Knowledge without understanding is hollow. What gives wisdom its shape? She stared, heart pounding. The door pulsed, waiting. Auri muttered, "Another riddle." Naturally, Camélia thought of her studies, her endless hours reading manuscripts, her hunger to learn. Knowledge had always mattered to her, but it had never been truly useful until she applied it, until she questioned it, until she lived it. Her voice was steady when she answered, "Experience." The door dissolved into mist. Ori's needle vibrated in awe. "You're on a roll." The next corridor was darker, lit only by a faint blue glow along the floor. As Camélia walked, shadows stretched tall along the walls, shifting with each step. But then a shadow stepped out. Her own silhouette stood before her, taller, warped, flickering. Its edges trembled like flame. Camélia froze. Ori whispered, "An illusion. Don't trust it, but don't ignore it either." The shadow tilted its head. Then it formed a shape, her shape, complete with her hair, her posture, her trembling hands. But the expression it wore wasn't hers. Its eyes were hollow, empty. Afraid, Camélia felt her stomach twist. The shadow walked toward her, step by slow step, its voice a faint whisper of her own. "You're not strong enough. You never were. What if you fail? What if you're wrong?" Each whisper echoed through the corridor, bouncing off the walls until it sounded like 100 versions of her fear speaking at once. Camélia stumbled back, shaking. "No, no, stop." Ori rolled between them. "Remember what I told you. This place uses your own mind against you. Fear becomes form, doubt becomes shape." He nudged her ankle gently. "But you are not your fear. She closed her eyes, steadied her breathing, and let the fear rise then fade. When she opened her eyes again, she stepped forward. "No," she said firmly, "you don't control me." The shadow froze. Camélia placed her hand through its chests, straight through the illusion. The shadow dissolved into a drifting mist that faded into nothing. Ori let out a metallic sigh of relief. "Good, very good." The corridor brightened. But the labyrinth wasn't finished. They reached a chamber where the walls spiraled upward like a tornado of stone. Platforms hovered in mid-air, shifting unpredictably. Each one showed a different era primitive fires, medieval towers, towering future cities, and even worlds that looked alien. A bridge formed beneath her feet, narrow and trembling. Each step triggered a shuffle in the platforms, some rising, others falling out of sight. Camélia hesitated. The height, the motion, the giant drop, all churned her stomach. "It wants to test your courage," Ori said softly. "Not your fearlessness, your courage." Camélia placed a foot forward. The platform wobbled. She steadied herself with a sharp inhale. "One step at a time," she whispered. She crossed slowly, every movement deliberate. Once, a platform dropped suddenly, sending a gust of wind that nearly knocked her off. Her heart leaped into her throat, but she didn't stop. She pressed on until, finally, she reached the other side. The moment her foot touched solid ground, the chaotic chamber melted away, replaced by a quiet, candlelit hall. Bookshelves lined the corridors, some ancient, some modern, some futuristic. A soft golden light glowed from nowhere and everywhere. Ari murmured, "Ah, the Hall of Intuition." At the end of the hall lay a pedestal with a single object resting. Atop. It, a small, glowing crystal shaped like a teardrop. Camélia approached cautiously. "What is it?" she asked. Ari's needle dipped. "Something only you can decide to pick up." She hesitated. The labyrinth had tested her knowledge, her courage, her ability to confront fear. What new challenge was this? But she remembered the lessons of the shifting land. Trust your instinct. Camélia reached out and picked up the crystal. It warmed immediately in her hand, glowing brighter until light swirled around her. The labyrinth walls vibrated with a soft hum, reacting to her choice. The crystal dissolved into her chest like a breath of light. Camélia staggered, gripping the atlas. She felt something shift inside her, a clarity, a steadiness, a strengthening of her inner voice. Auri watched her quietly. "Well, what do you feel?" She smiled, surprised at her own certainty. "Like I can trust myself." That, Auri said, is exactly what the labyrinth wanted. The walls around them shimmered, collapsing into swirling mist. The corridors folded inward, reforming into a single, straight path leading out into warm daylight. Camélia stepped forward, leaving the labyrinth of ages behind. The air outside felt lighter, brighter, warmer. "We made it," she murmured. Ori rolled beside her, sounding almost proud. "You did, and that was only the beginning." Camélia tightened her grip on the atlas, feeling the new strength pulsing within her like a quiet flame ahead. The world of the atlas stretched onward, filled with realms she could not yet imagine. But for the first time, she felt ready to face whatever came next, ready to walk her path with courage and trust the light she carried within. The Celestial Archive. Camélia had expected the center of the labyrinth to be something solid, a chamber of stone, a pedestal, a doorway, anything that felt grounded after all the twisting illusions and shifting corridors. Instead, she stepped out of the final passage and found herself standing on what felt like a bridge of pure starlight, stretching into a cosmos that seemed too vast, too alive, to belong beneath the earth. The air shimmered around her. Endless constellations pulsed softly, their glow weaving into spiraling shelves that curved upward and downward like ribbons of celestial silk. Each shelf carried thousands upon thousands of books, scrolls, and crystal-like orbs floating weightlessly, drifting toward their places as though guided by an unseen tide. The Celestial Archive, Ori whispered, his little compass needle spinning in odd circles. It's real. I always wondered. Camélia could barely breathe. Her heart fluttered like a page caught in wind. She walked forward, her boots tapping lightly on the shimmering path. Instead of dust, the air smelled of starlight, cold, clean, ancient. Are these, her voice trembled, stories? Ori bobbed beside her. Not just stories, lives, worlds, timelines, forgotten or never written, histories that never had paper to hold them. Camélia reached out to a floating book with a dark blue cover. It glimmered as her fingertips brushed it, flipping open to reveal glowing ink that moved like living constellations. The pages showed scenes that flickered into being, a civilization made of glass towers that sang with every breeze, a humble village on the back of a drifting sky whale, a lone inventor watching stars fall through her workshop window. So many worlds, Camélia whispered, and all hidden here. Ori turned slowly. This is why the Atlas exists. It leads only those who can walk between ages without losing themselves. She thought of the shifting lands in the beginning, how her doubts had twisted rivers and raised mountains in fear. She thought of the echoes of the past, how seeing their triumphs and failures had changed her. She remembered illusions of her own fears in the labyrinth, the shadows she had faced and the truths she had uncovered. Every step until now had shaped her, guided her, tested her, but nothing compared to this place. As she walked deeper into the archive, she noticed that certain shelves shimmered brighter when she passed, as though recognizing her. Some books spun open in greeting, others closed protectively, whispering that they weren't meant for her eyes yet. Then she saw it, a pedestal formed of spiraling constellations. A single book rested upon it, old, leather-bound, edges frayed, like it had been touched by many hands. Her breath caught. It was the Atlas, the same Atlas she'd found in her grandfather's attic, except now it pulsed with a warm, golden glow, like a heart waking after a long sleep. Ori, Camélia whispered, "Why is it here?" The little compass floated closer, his brass edge trembling, because this is where it came from. Every atlas that bridges worlds begins as a story written in the Celestial Archive. She knew before she opened it. Something deep in her bones knew. With a gentle touch, she lifted the cover. The familiar maps and shifting symbols glowed brighter, not ominously, but warmly, like a welcome. And then she turned to the first page. Her grandfather's handwriting flowed. Across it, not just notes, not just observations, a message. For the next traveler of ages, may you walk bravely where I once wandered. May your steps rewrite what mine could not. Camélia's pulse thudded. Her fingers trembled against the page. He was here, she whispered. He wasn't just studying maps or collecting old stories. He traveled through them. Ori nodded. Softly, he was one of the best, a seeker of truths between worlds, until the day he chose to close his atlas and return home for good. Why did he stop? Camélia asked. Ori's needle lowered. Some travelers return because they must, some because they found what they needed, and some because the choices they face have consequences too heavy to carry alone. Camélia stared at the words again. Her grandfather had never spoken of this. He'd been gentle, patient, always smelling faintly of books and herbs, but there had always been a shadow behind his eyes, an unspoken longing, something she had never understood until now. He passed the atlas to her for a reason. As she turned the page, she found another message scribbled in the margin. The atlas chooses those who are willing to see beyond themselves. Her throat tightened. So many pieces were falling into place. The glowing page that had pulled her in. The way the maps shifted beneath her fingers. The worlds that responded to her thoughts, her courage, her fears. This is my family's legacy, she whispered. He walked these worlds, and now I am walking them too. Ori hovered beside her, quiet as a breath. Camélia, he said gently, there is something you need to understand. She closed the atlas, hugging it against her chest. I'm listening. This place, the archive, is not simply a library. It is alive, and it listens to the hearts of travelers. Every traveler who reaches this point must make a choice. Camélia swallowed. A choice. Elri nodded. Knowledge like this can shape destinies, empires, entire worlds. You now hold the power to share the atlas with others, or to guard it as your grandfather once did. She looked around. Shelves of stars that hummed with forgotten memories. Books floating gently, waiting to be opened. Worlds that would fade into silence if no one remembered them. And then she looked inward. Why did she seek this journey in the first place? Her curiosity had started it, yes, but along the way, she had found courage, empathy, and a sense of purpose she had never known before. If she kept the atlas secret, she could protect people from dangers they weren't ready for. She could safeguard worlds that shouldn't be tampered with. But if she shared it, others, like her scholars, dreamers, seekers, might learn from these worlds, grow from them, heal with them, perhaps even save their own world with the wisdom found here. She felt her grandfather's presence in the silent air, watching, waiting. What did he choose? She asked softly. Ari's voice was almost a whisper. He chose to protect the atlas, to keep it hidden. He feared the world wasn't ready. And was he wrong? She asked. Ori hesitated. He made the choice he believed was best at the time, but every generation sees the world differently. Camélia closed her eyes. In the dark behind her eyelids, she saw the shifting rivers she had calmed with her resolve, the frozen city where she had listened to echoes of the past, the labyrinth, where she faced illusions of her fears and prevailed. All those moments had changed her. Maybe she wasn't meant to repeat her grandfather's decision. Maybe she was meant to build upon it. When she opened her eyes, the atlas glowed softly in her hands, as though awaiting her answer. I think, she breathed, that stories aren't meant to be locked away. They're meant to be shared, carefully, wisely, but shared. Ori tilted slightly. Are you sure? Yes. Her voice steadied. If these worlds hold lessons that can help people, then hiding them would be another kind of loss. I want to honor my grandfather, but I also want to honor the worlds that trusted me to walk through them. Slowly, the archive around her brightened. The shelves shimmered with golden light. Books fluttered open like wings. The path beneath her feet glowed warmly, pulsing with approval. She had made her choice. The atlas vibrated gently, and the pages began to turn on their own, forming new maps, ones she had not yet explored, ones she might one day share. Ori bobbed joyfully. Well then, traveler of ages, he said with a proud little hum, shall we begin writing your chapter? Camélia smiled wide, bright, certain. Yes, she said. Let's. And as she stepped forward into the starlit expanse, the celestial archive shifted around her, welcoming her not as a visitor but as its newest keeper of worlds. Returning home, Camélia lingered a moment on the edge of the celestial archive, letting the warmth of its starlight wash over her. She had wandered through the shifting rivers and mountains of the shifting lands, felt the echoes of long-lost civilizations whisper their triumphs and regrets, and faced her own fears in the twisting corridors of the labyrinth of ages. Every step had reshaped her. Every challenge had tested the core of her being. And now, standing before the gentle, shimmering portal that led back to the familiar world, she felt a strange mixture of exhilaration and melancholy. Eerie hovered beside her, needles spinning slowly, as if measuring her pulse rather than direction. This is it, he said softly. The last step, the return, the end, or the beginning. Camélia nodded. Her fingers grazed the soft leather of the atlas, now calm, the pages glowing with a steady, golden warmth instead of the restless, mysterious pulses she had first encountered. It had watched over her, guided her, and taught her more than any scholar's lecture or book ever could. Holding it now, she felt a profound connection, not just to the worlds she had explored, but to the lineage of travelers who had come before, and to her grandfather, whose silent footsteps had led her here. She thought of Himtha, gentle, patient man, who had taught her to read, to question, to wonder. She remembered the faint glimmer of sadness behind his eyes whenever he spoke of his own youth, the secrets he kept tucked behind his calm demeanor. Now she understood. He had been a traveler too, one who had faced choices far beyond ordinary comprehension. And he had left the atlas to her, entrusting her with the wisdom, responsibility, and courage that it contained. I can do this, she whispered to herself. I can return. Ori tilted slightly, as if offering quiet encouragement. And the world you're returning to, are you ready to see it with the eyes of someone who's walked through ages? Camélia smiled faintly. I think I am. The portal swirled gently ahead, luminous ribbons of light spiraling outward like liquid silk. Unlike the portal that had whisked her into this extraordinary realm with a sudden pull and overwhelming force, this one was patient, almost tender, as if it had been waiting for her readiness. Camélia stepped forward cautiously, feeling the soft hum of energy beneath her feet. The air carried a faint scent of warmth and starlight, a lingering trace of the celestial archive itself. As she walked through the portal, she let herself reflect on the journey one last time. She remembered the shifting lands where rivers rerouted themselves with her every thought. Mountains rose and fell with the tremor of her imagination. She remembered learning to still herself, to focus, and to harness creativity and courage in a world that mirrored her own mind. She had discovered the power of intention, and with it, she had shaped not just the terrain, but her own strength. Then came the city of echoes. Camélia could still hear the faint whispers of lives long gone, the laughter of a child receiving a loaf of bread, the anguished cries of a man who had chosen poorly, the fleeting joy of triumphs that existed only in memory. The lessons of resilience, empathy, and understanding had carved themselves deeply into her heart. She had walked among the echoes, learned from them, and realized that every choice, no matter how small, rippled across time. The labyrinth of ages had been her ultimate trial, corridors that tested knowledge, courage, and empathy. Corridors that revealed illusions of her own deepest fears. Step had demanded trust in herself. She had faced shadows of doubt and learned to move forward despite them, to embrace uncertainty, to trust her intuition even when the path shifted beneath her. The labyrinth had been dizzying, terrifying, and exhilarating all at once, and she had emerged stronger for it. Now, as the portal carried her toward the familiar world, Camélia felt all those experiences settle into her mind, not as burdens, but as quiet, guiding lights. Her heart beat with a steady rhythm. She felt wiser, steadier, more herself than she had ever known. The first sensation as she returned was the smell of her grandfather's attic, the rich, comforting scent of aged wood, paper, and a hint of lavender from the sachets tucked in drawers. Dust motes drifted lazily in the morning sunlight, streaming through the window, catching and refracting light like tiny stars in motion. She blinked, adjusting to the ordinary brightness, and realized she hadn't truly noticed these things before. The world she had left felt mundane, but now it was brimming with subtle wonders. She had never paused to see Camélia set the atlas carefully on the worn wooden table, its cover cool beneath her fingers. The energy that had once pulsed unpredictably now radiated a calm, steady warmth, almost like a heartbeat. It seemed content, patient, as if it understood that her journey was both ending and beginning at once. She traced the familiar lines on its cover, smiling softly. "You're still waiting," she murmured. "Waiting for the next traveler, aren't you?" Ori bobbed beside her, spinning slowly. "Patience is one of your lessons now, isn't it? The atlas will wait, just as the worlds it holds will wait for the right person to arrive." Camélia closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. She could feel the weight of responsibility, but it was no longer heavy. It was steady, grounding, a reminder of everything she had learned and carried with her. She thought of the lessons from the labyrinth, the echoes, and the shifting lands, of courage and empathy, of intention and choice. She understood now that her journey was not just about adventure or discovery, it was about seeing the world, ordinary and extraordinary alike, with attentive, courageous eyes. Opening her eyes, she looked around the attic again. The familiar shelves, her grandfather's old books, the window that framed a patch of garden outside, they all felt different. They held the potential for adventure now, too. Every day Every moment could be a journey if seen with the right perception, if approached with curiosity and care. She rose from the chair, feeling the atlas warm in her hands. She walked to the window, gazing at the garden, bathed in soft sunlight. Birds flitted between branches. A soft breeze stirred the leaves. The ordinary world, which she had always thought was predictable and simple, now seemed alive with possibility. She could almost see tiny ripples of wonder woven into everything the way a flower opened. The shimmer of dew on a leaf, the way sunlight danced across the earth. Ori floated near her shoulder, his tiny frame catching the light. "So, what's next, traveler?" he asked, voice soft but filled with quiet excitement. "Do you keep exploring or do you rest?" Camélia smiled, turning the atlas carefully in her hands. "I think I'll do both. I'll explore the world around me, here, in small ways, and I'll keep learning from the atlas, waiting until the right time to share it." Ori spun happily, a wise choice and a safe one. "Though knowing you, adventure will find you anyway." She laughed softly, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "Yes," she said, "adventure finds us in unexpected ways, and perhaps that's the point." For a long while, she simply stood at the window, watching. The sunlight shifted slowly, painting patterns across the floor, illuminating the dust. Motes that danced like tiny galaxies. She thought of the travelers she had met in visions, the worlds she had glimpsed in the celestial archive, and the shifting lands that had demanded she face herself. She realized that the lessons she had learned were not just for extraordinary realms, they were for this world, this quiet, ordinary world, full of its own subtle magic. Camélia knelt beside the atlas and ran her fingers along its pages, letting her mind wander to possibilities. One day, she would share these stories with those ready to understand. For now, she would treasure them, learn from them, and let them guide her life. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her journey had changed her, not just by the sights she had seen, but by the understanding she had gained, the quiet strength of courage, the weight of choices, the resonance of empathy, and the wonder of seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary. Hours passed, though time felt different now. Sunlight faded, shadows stretched across the attic floor, and the evening air carried a gentle hush. Camélia rose again, brushing a strand of hair from her face. She felt a serene calm settle over her, a feeling of completeness without the heaviness of closure. The atlas sat quietly, its glow soft, almost imperceptible now, like the heartbeat of a world waiting to be touched by another traveler. Ori hovered near her hand. "Are you truly ready to live here again?" Camélia looked out into the fading light, the ordinary garden, the familiar trees, and the distant sounds of life. She smiled softly, eyes glimmering with newfound understanding. "Yes, adventure doesn't only exist out there," she said, voice steady. "It exists here, everywhere, for anyone willing to see it." She breathed deeply, savoring the quiet calm, the warmth of returning home, and the subtle thrill of possibility that lingered at the edges of everything familiar. With the atlas close and Ori spinning quietly beside her, she knew that the ordinary world was now filled with extraordinary potential. Every day could carry a lesson, a spark of wonder, a reminder that the universe, vast and mysterious, could live even in the smallest corners of her life. Home had never felt so alive, and with that, Camélia stepped forward, carrying the worlds of the atlas in her mind and the lessons of the ages in her heart, ready to live with wonder in every moment, and to discover that even the smallest days could hold adventures as vast as any realm she had ever walked. And so, dear dreamers, our journey through the Atlas of Ages comes to a close. May the echoes of adventure fill your dreams tonight. Remember the courage, the wonder, and the lessons you've carried. Sleep gently and awaken with a heart full of curiosity. Thank you for sharing this night with Whispers of the Night. Until next time, sweet dreams and good night.